Have you ever looked at someone else's life and thought, she's achieved far more than me, or her life is so much more exciting, or she has so much more than me, or any and all of the above? Then you are guilty of, or a victim of, social comparison. And although we hear of it usually associated with younger people, women at midlife and beyond are particularly at risk. So have you found yourself thinking any of those things? I know I have. Before I tell you why at our age we're more susceptible to this, let's just explain why we do it in the first place. Because social comparison is actually a natural part of human behaviour. It's part of who we are, and it's part of our evolutionary roots. So imagine our early ancestors living in small groups, and they needed to work out their own abilities in relation to the group. So working out who was the best at hunting for food, who was the best warrior, who was the best at avoiding danger, and also trying to work out what you were better at in order that you might help the group, because in those days, of course, they were a lot less individualistic they needed to be than we are, and that way of thinking helped the individuals of the group to adapt and survive in order to help the group, and it became ingrained behaviour. It's also part of our psychological roots. Now, in the 1950s, Leon Festinger, a psychologist, introduced the idea of social comparison theory. So there's a whole theory about this if you're interested. And it suggests that we have this inherent or built-in drive to compare ourselves to others, to give us a sense of where we stand in society. Now, I think you can understand that, because it helps us to form our self-identity, and it also guides our behaviours. Now, we compare upwards, but we also compare downwards. So, for example, we notice those people who are particularly more successful in certain life domains, but we also notice those who are struggling, and we work out where we are in comparison. Now, so far, this is, okay. But today, of course, we don't need to do this. We don't need to rely on social comparisons for basic survival. But of course, thanks to the internet and social media, we have never, ever been more exposed to other people's lives before. And it's kind of happened all of a sudden in the greater scheme of things. And so the social comparison tendency persists, but so much more so, and to an extent that it is robbing us of our happiness and well-being, and in some cases significantly impacting well-being and mental health. So very simply, you see someone online, let's say, seemingly doing so much better than you in a certain area. Now, I can relate to this, I'll explain in a second, but you see someone who's doing so much better than you in a particular area that's important to you. You have all of these thoughts. Let's condense those thoughts. They are amazing, you are not. Or they are amazing and you are rubbish, even, at this particular thing, and your self-esteem plummets. Now, this leads to all kinds of things, but it can lead to bitterness, and as I say, your self-esteem drops. And on the other hand, you might see someone in your field who's actually struggling, and you can see that you're doing a lot better than them. Now, this possibly leads to arrogance, but both of these things give you a kind of false sense of self, leading to inadequate decision making and behaviours at best, and poor mental health at worst. Now, as I said, and it may have surprised you to know that this social comparison particularly impacts women in midlife, which is why I wanted us to take a deep dive into it. So this is going to be a series. I'm going to publish them in quick succession, but it is going to be a series because I think it affects if we are honest and truthful to ourselves, it's the person you need to be truthful to, I think we need to talk about it. So let's have a look then at how this might be impacting women of our age. And before I talk about the first one, I have a confession to make, and I'll probably have a few confessions to make of talking about this subject. But the first thing I want to talk about is professional status, or professional or financial status, shall we say. And I had an experience quite recently, actually, when this has happened to me on Facebook, so a couple of times. On Facebook, my Facebook group, although I don't indulge in Facebook anymore, at least not nowhere near as I used to do. However, so on my Facebook book is full of page rather is full of people who do similar things to me, who have studied similar things to me, and who are in the kind of same field. And recently, someone who I haven't spoken to in a long time, who I studied with, I discovered she has, since we were together studying, she has a PhD, and she now lives in another country. And trust me, I am delighted for her. But nevertheless, afterwards, and I messaged her afterwards, why she got a PhD and I haven't, and a little bit like that. Not quite like that. Excuse me. I felt like that. Now, I'm a very self-aware person, and I am conscious of these things. And in the next video, we're going to talk about how to mitigate these feelings, how to reframe them, and how to use it to our advantage. But I am guilty, if that's the term, of feeling like that. Delighted though I was for her, I felt a little bit like that. So that's my confession there, because so the whole thing then is kind of comparing ourselves to others maybe who are wealthier than us, or wealthy is a big term, I think, who are better off than us, shall we say. And we might look at those at the same age as we are and think they've achieved a lot more than we have. Not so much, although possibly it's not really about the nicer house, the bigger house, the better holidays and those kind of things, although that could be something. It's, about possibly people, as I say, achieving what you wanted to achieve and haven't done maybe, and this is a key, we'll be talking about it. And it can lead to feelings of bitterness, inadequacy, and certainly feelings of missing out. We start to fret and ruminate and possibly become dissatisfied in our own lives, or not. This could be totally subliminal. You might skip through Facebook and see all these things and not really be aware that you are having those thoughts. If ever you've thought to yourself that you feel that way, you feel a little bit down and you're not sure why, this could be part of it, and this is why I wanted to bring it to your attention, because the problem is these things creep up on us when we may not even be aware of it or realise that it's a daily habit, scrutinising the lives of others and then feeling bad about it, and that starts to erode our own health and well-being. It's a shocker. It's a shocker, because where you might not feel like I did quite so about it, you might just feel about it. But over time, it starts to erode your self-confidence, and we'll be talking about this as well in the next video. That's how it can happen. Okay, let's talk about body image and appearance. Now, obviously, this is massive. The whole thing is massive. Obviously, there's a social comparison theory, which means there will be papers and books and all kinds of things, and we are just, a couple of 10-minute videos. But I guess what I wanted to do with these few videos is to bring it to your attention so that you become self-aware, so that you become more conscious, so that you can stop it from robbing your happiness, is what we're all about on this channel. So, I mean, obviously our society is obsessed with youth. It is getting slightly better, I would argue, but it's still obsessed with youth. Now, this obviously affects younger girls, and it affected me when I was younger. Back in those days, well, even now, but now in terms of interior design, in those days I would read fashion magazines, and I loved magazines. I always have. I think it's because as a younger person, obviously with 3 small children, I couldn't sit down and read a full book. What I could do was flick through a magazine and get small chunks of information on certain things, and that's why, I could spend 5 minutes looking at something. And then picture after picture after picture of gorgeous, stunning women, would obviously have had an effect on me. That's how I should look, that's how I want to look, and so on. Now, as we get older, if we start to compare ourselves to younger women, this is where, we really do start to feel dissatisfied with our bodies and the way we look. Or, we might look at women of our own age and feel that they're aging better than we are, or they don't seem to be showing the signs of aging as we are, those kind of issues. And even though now we're seeing some older models, it's still about looking at those older models and seeing them as stunning and looking amazing, being amazing, and we're not. So there is that. Now, why it affects us more, because you've got to remember that women at midlife and beyond it's already a time of enormous stress for many women. Empty nest, not knowing where the career's going, looking after aged parents, not to mention the bodily changes that gift that keeps on giving, that is the menopause, does to us. We already have all of those things eating away at our self-confidence and our esteem, without the constant bombardment of not only now images of women looking amazing, but looking at people's lives, because we've never before been able to scrutinise other people's lives as closely as we can now, thanks to the internet and Facebook. So we also see them having the most amazing lives too, the ones that we're not having. And so all of this mounts up and starts to make us feel bad. It creeps up on us. So, as I say, I wanted to touch on it to give you an idea or food for thought. So what I wanted us to do a quiz. So I want you to get a pen and paper. It's just a fun quiz. Get yourself a pen and paper. I'll wait for you. Okay, so we're going to do this quiz. It's not going to take long. There's only 6 questions. I'm going to put it up here, but I will repeat the questions so that if you have your head down and you're writing, because maybe don't just answer the question or come back to it after possibly and fill in a little bit more about the way you feel about a particular thing. I think that would be a great thing for you to do in terms of self-awareness, ready for our next video. Okay, so let's start then. So the number 1 section is about the social media scroll check. What do? A, you scroll through your feed, enjoy the updates and move on. B, you occasionally feel a twinge of envy, but you shake it off. C, you find yourself wondering why everyone else seems to have it all together. So A, B or C, as I say, you can read them here. A, B or C. Okay, number 2 is at a reunion. A, you're excited to catch up and share stories. B, you enjoy reconnecting, but sometimes you feel a little bit self-conscious. C, you dread the inevitable. So what are you up to now? Question. A, B or C. Number 3, fitness feels. A, you're proud of your own progress, no matter how small. B, you sometimes wish you were fit as others, but you stay motivated. And C, you often compare your fitness levels to others and feel discouraged. A, B or C. Before I take that off screen, just have a look at the questions. The answers rather, the A, B's or C's. Make sure you put the right one down. Okay, let's move on to number 4. You can always go back if you missed something. Career. You celebrate others' successes and feel inspired. That's A. B. You occasionally wonder if you're on the right path. C. You frequently feel like you're not achieving enough compared to your peers. A, B or C. Okay, number 5. At the weekend. You're content with your plans, whether it's a night out or a cosy evening in. That's A. B. You sometimes feel FOMO, fear of missing out, but you enjoy your time. C. You believe others have a much more exciting life than you do. A, B or C. Okay, and finally, body image issues. A. You are happy just the way you are. B. You often look at others and think you need to lose weight. And C. You think you look older compared to your peers and spend a fortune on lotions and potions. A, B or C. Okay, so you can rewind and look over those again if you want to. It's a simple A, B or C answer. However, as I said, if you wanted to dig deeper into that, you could look at your answer. So let's say for career, you answered C. You frequently feel like you're not achieving enough compared to your peers. Pad that out a little bit. Ask yourself the question, why do you feel like that? What's going on and why do you feel like that? And you could do that with all of the answers. Or, if you like, you can just tally up your A, B's and C's. Now then, I am going to leave you hanging because we're not going to talk about those results until the next video. So, as I say, I want you to give yourself time to think about it. Do you do this? Why is it important that we're talking about it? We'll talk about the damages it can do, but I've touched on them already. You may find yourself feeling a little bit down and not understand why, and it could be this. So we need to get to the root of that. And as we go along, we'll be able to talk about mitigating these thoughts that we have and, using them to our advantage, shall we say. Okay, let me know if you've enjoyed that and what your immediate thoughts on it down in the comments box below. I would really appreciate that, and I'll see you in the next video. And until then, remember that on the Happy Stuff and Fluff, we're getting happy, living longer and growing younger. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.